I really think this is Drake's lowest point yet in terms of level of effort. He really put almost nothing into this record. It's one note, badly produced, weakly sung, horrendously underwritten. And yeah, a lot of the shit people have been saying about it online about just like, you know, being the kind of music that plays over the loudspeaker at H&M. For the most part, that's really accurate. Yeah. Yeah, this Drake record is not good. Once again, I'll sum this up by saying this is just a very uninspired record from Drake. Not a whole lot going on here creatively. A few decent tracks here and there, but nothing coming together into a great project here. And yeah, feeling a light 3. It's one of the worst things Cole has ever put out, which maybe sounds harsh, but honestly, to be any nicer to it than that would be to acknowledge that, it's like somewhere in the ballpark of his past and successful albums, even his early mixtapes. No, it absolutely is not. This thing is not on the level of a Friday Night Lights or whatever. So we have to paint this tape for what it is. It is subpar, which is why I'm feeling a light 3 on it. More like the I don't really care all that much package. Woo! That was funny. That was very funny. That was very funny. That was a funny joke. That was very funny. I like how funny that was. That was funny. Thank you. Thank you. You go, boy. I'm feeling a decent 2 strong 3, and along the way, it's really a roller coaster ride of failures and underwhelming moments and so-so spots too. Feeling a strong 3 on this one, but yeah, those are basically my thoughts on that. I like the second disc even less than the first. I would probably give it like a light to decent 3, and I would average both of these discs out to pretty much like a light to decent 4. I'm just not really sure what to say about it other than that. I mean, here's some more struggle bars that I might have forgotten to mention. I get green like Earth Day. That was so terrible. It's like Drake really wanted to put together some cringeworthy lines on this thing, but I'm going to stop here or else I'll just go on about this record forever. I'm feeling a decent strong 4. Take the constant Wu-Tang references throughout this album. While I'm sure that Drake likes some Wu-Tang, while I know that he appreciates at least some underground hip-hop, I don't really see him making these references interestingly or tastefully. It just seems like Drake's insecurity is driving him to make all of these experimental tracks, all of these more aggressive tracks where he just constantly sounds silly. I'm feeling a light 5. Overall, I'm pretty indifferent to this thing, and while I do think More Life is a better listening experience than Views, it's only by virtue of it just being less offensive, less crappy, having less terrible moments on it, and more so-so moments on it. I'm feeling a light to decent 5. Yeah, maybe Cole is not in the position to make these kinds of statements given that Nas has a few classics under his belt, but you could argue that if Cole continued to make moves this ballsy, he might have a classic or two under his belt at this point. The closing track on this LP is beautiful. It really delves into a lot of those moral and religious themes that you would assume would come with an album of this title, but honestly, it's just too little, too late. I'm feeling a decent to strong 5. All in all, though, I'm still pretty indifferent toward this tape. I'm not all that crazy about it. I do love a handful of tracks off of it. It is cool to go back and listen to what ideas Drake stuck to and which ones didn't really pan out into anything. Going back to a project like this does feel like you're staring into the petri dish of history and observing the earliest stages of something very significant. I can't really say I get much more out of it than that, though. I'm feeling a decent to strong 5. Again, another example of when Drake gets angry and lashes out, it often ends in such a way where he's just sort of like stepping on a rake and then it just smacks him in the face. But yeah, that's really all I think about these extras. I could give it a strong 5. But maybe some more outside input on his music would allow Cole to collaborate with people who could, I don't know, fill in some of his musical blind spots, of which there are quite a few. Not really sure what else to say. I feel kind of indifferent yet again on another J. Cole album. Kind of torn because there are highs and there are lows here, and really that's what J. Cole just kind of tends to do, I guess. I'm feeling a strong 5 to a light 6, as there are so many bars and tracks just flying on this thing that don't really add to the overall vibe of the record. They weigh it down, they bog it down, or just moments that are tacky and tasteless and just straight up terrible. Drake album is gonna Drake album, essentially, at the end of the day, and I'm not really sure if there's too much else to say about For All the Dogs. I'm feeling a strong 5 to a light 6. There are a lot of lackluster songs and just kind of, again, cringe-worthy lines, especially on the back end of this LP, as Cole starts singing more and more and more. There are some things about this LP that are most definitely worth celebrating, but I feel like the more commercial projects I hear from J. Cole, the question of what makes him special becomes harder to answer. I'm feeling a strong 5 to a light 6 on this thing. Give us a hit here, a hit there, some misses. It's just a little all over the place. It doesn't seem like their intentions going into it were that big. And as a result, I don't think it came out as great as it possibly could have been, because Drake and Future right now, they're at the top of their games. And I guess what's kind of sad is that the potential in them collaborating wasn't really fully explored. We just kind of got some short, enjoyable tracks. I'm feeling a light to decent 6. This project does give a better and a greater vision for the future of the label than I think Revenge 2 did. And even though it is deeply flawed, this certainly does make me more interested in what everyone on Dreamville is doing in the future, as opposed to some of the other collective-based projects that I've heard as of late. I'm feeling a light to decent 6. Compelling performances, introspective ones even, like on the song Seasons, and I'll leave it at that. I'm feeling a light to decent 6. So even if this is a big improvement, what does it really mean? Look, all I really do know is this album has quite a few bangers on it. Well produced, well performed, very catchy, very cold, very mean, and if you could somehow see yourself through the toxicity of it all, I think you will get quite a bit out of it. But if not, and you want to pass on it, I don't think there's anything that you're really truly missing anyway. I'm feeling a decent 2 strong 6. At least 20 minutes of crap were cut from this LP. I think I would be dealing with an album that was great. For me, Take Care as it currently is just a steak with way too much fat in it that you've got to cut around to get to the good stuff. Overall, I do consider this album to be growth for Drake, though, especially considering that I liked this much more than his last album. I'm feeling a strong 6 to a light 7. I feel like he wanted to, or at least he was implying as if he was going to bring the listener on some kind of journey into his life or his friend's life or into his past, but instead we got like a few weird scrawled diary entries that are barely legible, and a weird track about folding clothes. I'm feeling a strong 6 to a light 7. Listen to it more and more and more, just the things I did not like became more apparent. I'm feeling the strongest and beefiest and most muscular of 6s on this album. But yeah, I was expecting, honestly, this thing to be a bit more of a chore than it was to listen to it. It actually wasn't a chore at all. It's a pretty entertaining tape, and just cool to hear them be able to reform in this way, in this mixtape lane, and still have Dreamville's talents shine through. I'm feeling a light 7 on this project. I think if he's really going to push beyond and put out more records, he needs to either dig deeper artistically, take more risks, or just address and get into more personal experiences as his life grows and changes and he matures, considering how well that has panned out here. Feeling a light to decent 7 on this one. I don't think this album is a total mess, and I think it's far from being worthless. And I wouldn't say the album has no meaning either. I think what the album means is very much up to the listener, I'll say again. And I don't think we've ever heard Kendrick's dark side like we have on this album right here before. But I have heard Kendrick release better projects than this. At least 3 of them, I would say. And that's pretty much what leads me to say that I'm feeling a decent to strong 7. Project Drake has his usual emotional baggage kind of in order to the point where he isn't losing control over it. It's not impeding upon the enjoyment of the album. And hopefully he continues to keep it this well organized as we continue on to his next full-length album later this year. I'm feeling a strong 7 to a light 8. And I would like to say overall, I loved this project and I thought it was a great experience, and I really enjoyed it. I'm feeling a light 8. Some of his guest rappers overshadow him a little bit, like BJ the Chicago Kid and Ab Soul. And it's not necessarily because they're technically more proficient than he is, but, you know, he's just got that relaxed approach that isn't as ear-grabbing as somebody who is more urgent. I'm feeling a light to decent 8. It seems even when Kendrick is coming through with something that isn't his best, it's still pretty great. Kind of feeling a decent to strong 8 on this thing. He's evolved that. He's brought it to the next level. And yet he's done it by not being preachy, not beating listeners over the head with some kind of, you know, cause or very direct message. He's done it through allegory, anecdotes, a combination of fiction and nonfiction that if you listen to it hard enough to get the bigger picture, get the narrative, and just hear the story, it's most likely going to have a bigger impact on you. I'm pretty much feeling a light to decent 9. I mean, you know, you only get so many Kendrick Lamars, so be happy with the ones that you get. But it's albums like this that people use as benchmarks in musical history, and it just happens to be fantastically enjoyable as well. I'm feeling a come in 10 on this record. Yeah.